You know, Carrie, I've never expected much from you. Ever since the day you and my son were married, I've known that you would disappoint me until the end of my days. But never in my wildest dreams did I imagine you would be as brazenly disrespectful to me as you've been today.
Mom? What's the matter? I'm sorry, I don't have the slightest clue what you're angry about. I mean, I haven't even spoken to you yet today.
Goodness gracious, girl. You're not just disrespectful. You're painfully stupid to boot. No, you have not spoken to me yet today, which is precisely the issue. It has now been Christmas for 16 hours, and yet you have neither called nor texted us to wish us a Merry Christmas.
Oh, I'm sorry? Merry Christmas, Mom.
Unbelievable. Simply unbelievable. You're so ignorant that you don't even know to wish us a Merry Christmas without being reminded?
I'm sorry, Mom. I just thought that since we were going to be heading over to your house tomorrow, I'd wait until then to wish you a Merry Christmas in person.
Ah, I see. You don't think we're good enough to get a Merry Christmas out of you on Christmas Day. We only deserve Christmas leftovers that were left out on the counter overnight and reheated in the microwave. Thank you, Carrie, for making it very clear how you feel about us.
That's not true at all. I'm sorry that I was late in wishing you a Merry Christmas, Mom. I'll try to do better next year, I guess.
See to it that you do. Heavens to Betsy, girl. You're lucky I have your number. I'm much more lenient about these things than the rest of the family. Since it seems that you've had some sense slapped into you, be sure and message all of our relatives saying Merry Christmas as well. And be timely about it.
Yes, Mom. I'll get right on that.
Really? You ought to be ashamed of yourself, making me this angry on Christmas Day. You're not a child anymore, so stop acting like it.
Yes, Mom.
So, you are all coming to my house tomorrow, correct?
That's right. We've been planning on that for a few weeks now.
My daughter and her family will be here, as well as a few of our other relatives. Do not do anything to embarrass me. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, Mom. Crystal clear.
And, since you're clearly utterly senseless about Christmas etiquette, let me fill you in on a few other essentials. Though it may not be Christmas Day, we are still celebrating Christmas, and you will dress appropriately. I've seen how you dress normally, and that absolutely will not fly. And be sure to put on some proper makeup as well.
What's wrong with how I normally dress? I may not be as much of a flashy dresser, but I've made honest efforts to dress well when I come over to your house.
Goodness gracious, you call that drab and honest effort? You don't know the first thing about fashion. Just find a picture of my daughter and copy her as best as you can. That's your only hope. They don't let the fact that they're married and have children of their own interfere with looking presentable. Unlike you, they haven't discarded their femininity like yesterday's rubbish.
Okay, how about I ask your daughter for some makeup tips when I see her tomorrow? Like I said, I've never been much of a flashy dresser. I'm sure there's a lot I could learn from her.
Yes, that would be for the best. Lord knows you need expert help. Whenever we have any sort of family gathering, you're always standing out, and it's not in a good way. If something isn't done about your homeliness soon, you'll never be anything but a constant source of humiliation to our family.
I'd hate for that to happen.
Now, I will allow you to ask my daughter for advice. However, be sure that you maintain a proper stature. You are in the position of a student begging for the instruction of a seasoned professional. I expect nothing but humility and deference out of you, so your usual haughty attitude will simply not cut it.
You think I'm haughty? I don't think that's fair.
Of course it's fair. Don't think I haven't seen the way you carry yourself around my husband. He's your father-in-law, and yet you treat him as though he were one of your old school friends.
Actually, that's the way your husband prefers it. He said he wants to have a friendly relationship with me.
Nonsense. Utter nonsense. I don't believe you. But even if he did tell you such a scandalous thing, you can disregard it. You need to know your place. You are his daughter-in-law. He is your father-in-law. Act like it.
Yes, Mom.
I'll be watching you tomorrow, Carrie. Don't think I'm going to let you get away with any inappropriate behavior.
Hey there, Mom. I'm sorry, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. We're still coming over to your house today, but we're running a little bit late.
I knew it. I just knew that you would find some way to ruin my Christmas. What on earth are you doing? Everyone is here except for you. You know that I can't start handing out the presents until all the grandchildren are here. How much longer are you going to keep me waiting?
I'm sorry, Mom. We're stuck on the highway right now. It looks like there was a pretty nasty accident up ahead near the off-ramp. Traffic is at a complete standstill. We haven't moved in about 10 minutes.
That's not an excuse. It's still your fault for failing to leave early enough. How many times do I have to tell you this? You never know what's going to happen out on the road, so you have to account for the fact and leave with ample time. If you had done that, you might have missed the accident entirely.
I know, Mom. I'm sorry. We tried to leave earlier. We really did.
But you didn't, did you? So what's your excuse for not leaving early enough, huh?
Just as we were about to leave, my daughter Annie had a really nasty fall. It ripped a hole in her pants and scraped up her knee pretty bad, so she needed a change of clothes and a bandage.
That child. She's always been disturbingly rambunctious. Isn't she in elementary school now?
Yeah, she just started 2nd grade this fall.
I thought so. She's about the same age as my daughter's children, but they are much more well-behaved than Annie. Whose influence do you suppose made her that way, Carrie?
Mine, I guess?
Of course it was you. My son was always perfectly well-behaved, even as a young child. There's no way he could produce such a wild and uncontrolled child. It's obviously your negative influence on Annie that's to blame for her accident today.
I suppose it is. Sorry, Mom.
It would be one thing if she were a boy. Boys are naturally more energetic than girls. But for a girl to be so troublesome is simply unheard of. Are you certain she doesn't have some sort of issue, so to speak?
Well, she's ordinarily a much calmer girl, but, Christmas was yesterday. She's really into the holiday spirit, I guess. That, and she's excited about getting to play with her cousins at your house today. She was running out to the car when she fell, so I'm guessing that's it.
It sounds to me like you have failed at teaching her how to control your own emotions. That's yet another thing today that is entirely your fault. You failed to leave on time because your daughter can't control herself, and she can't control herself because you failed her. Let me guess, you're trying out one of those hideous, modern parenting styles and refuse to tell her no. Is that it?
No, that's not it at all. She's our first child, so I suppose it's possible I may have been a bit too lenient on her, but when she acts up, I always get after her.
Why is it that I don't believe you're telling the truth when you say that? I'll tell you why. I've seen Annie playing with my daughter's children many times over the years, and one thing has always been very clear. There's a distinct difference in social and emotional development between Annie and the other children. Once you're done having my daughter teach you about making yourself presentable in public, have her teach you how to parent properly as well.
Yes, Mom, I'll put that on my list too.
Sweet merciful heavens, how could you have failed that poor girl so terribly? A mother's influence on her child is at its peak when they're young, so there's no possibility that my son bears any of the responsibility. You need to get yourself in order, or else you'll end up destroying any chance that Annie could have at a respectable future.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, Mom. Anyway, it looks like the cars are starting to move again. We should be at your house before too much longer. Hey, Mom, can we talk for a minute? We just got home and opened the presents you sent home with us, but it was completely empty. You let the other kids open their presents at your house, but you told us you wanted to wait until we were home to open ours, which I thought was odd. Why was Annie the only one who didn't get anything?
You just now noticed?
Well, I did think the box was unusually light, but I thought that maybe it was some clothes or something. Is this some sort of mistake? Did you wrap up the wrong box or something?
Mistake? Nonsense. I don't make mistakes.
You mean this was deliberate?
Of course it was deliberate. I would never give a Christmas present to such a troublesome child.
Yeah, Annie also told us you said that to her after we got home. She was rather quiet in the car, but I thought she was just tired. Why would you say such a thing to her? Annie is not a troublesome child. She's a perfectly normal child. And above all else, she is your granddaughter.
My granddaughter? Don't be ridiculous. No child as wild, ill-mannered, and troublesome as her is any grandchild of mine.
I am absolutely appalled that you would talk like this about Annie. What is it about Annie that you hate so much anyway? Is it just the fact that she's my daughter?
It's not just that she's your daughter. It's that she inherited all of your worst qualities, and none of my son's. She's like a more refined version of everything that I find deplorable about you.
You want to know what your heartless words today did to Annie? She is currently in her room crying into her pillow. I can't imagine how much it must have hurt to be treated that way by her own grandmother. It's not in my power to control how you feel about me or my daughter. But at the very least, I'd like to think someone your age would know that there are some things that shouldn't be said out loud. Especially not to a child. Why did you go out of your way to hurt her feelings?
It's not my fault she can't accept the truth. Santa only gives presents to good boys and girls. Didn't you know that? If she wants to get a Christmas present, then she needs to be a good child like all my other grandchildren. Compared to all of them, Annie is clearly inferior. She'll have to get her act together before she'll be getting any Christmas presents from me. And that's another thing that's your fault as her mother.
She's not inferior in any way whatsoever. What is wrong with you, Mom? There is no one else in the family who talks about Annie like this.
Just because I'm the only one with the courage to be honest with her doesn't mean I'm the only one who sees the truth. She's an inferior child, plain and simple. Allow me to turn your own question on you, Carrie. What's wrong with you that you can't see how damaged your own child is?
There's nothing wrong with me, Mom. You're the one who's comfortable with calling an 8-year-old girl things like inferior or damaged.
You blind fool. Your inability to face reality is only hurting your daughter's future, you know.
Even if you were right about Annie, which you're not, by the way, but even if you were right, you're still out of your mind for giving presents to all the grandkids but her.
My goodness, you're a greedy one, aren't you? It grows clearer every day where your daughter got her defective personality from. You want her to get all the rewards of being a good child without actually having to be a good child.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's all about me. You hate me. You always hated me, and I knew that before I even married your son.
My goodness, now you're being greedy and ungrateful. I pegged you as an unfitting partner for my son from the first time he introduced you to us. All I've done ever since then is give you piece after piece of valuable advice to better yourself. A simple thank you would suffice.
Yeah, thanks for confirming that this is all about your bizarre hatred of me. I've been putting up with your scorn for all these years because you're my husband's mother, and I wanted to try and have a healthy relationship. I don't care what you say about me. Nothing hurts me anymore. But I will not sit idly by and allow you to treat my daughter the same way. That stops now.
Stop talking about me as if I'm some sort of bully. I've been nothing but sincere in trying to encourage Annie. Someone's got to undo the damage you've done to her after all.
Oh, you're not a bully, are you? Then what do you call it when you look at an 8-year-old girl in the face and tell her she's ugly and stupid and laughing while you say it? Is that what encouragement means to you? Laughing while insulting a little girl? Yeah, you're gonna have to forgive me for not believing you're sincere about anything but tearing Annie and me down.
You think that's an insult? I was only telling her the truth. She is ugly, and she's dreadfully stupid. Both your fault, might I add. Have her stand next to any other girl her age, and there's simply no comparison. She's hideous. Also, she's in the 2nd grade, but she barely even has a 1st grade vocabulary. You should be grateful to me, Carrie. I might just have saved her from a lifetime of disappointment caused by the false expectations you've given her. Most people don't have the courage to tell someone exactly what they need to hear. I took it upon myself as her grandmother to tell her the truth.
You can knock off this sanctimonious act, Mom. No one's buying it. All you are is a bully.
Really, though, Annie is in her room crying over what I said to her? For goodness sake, she has a far weaker constitution than I could have ever imagined. That is, yet again, your fault. You've spoiled her rotten by denying her the opportunity to face the truth about what she is. You're just lashing out at me because I'm pointing out how miserably you failed as a parent. But even after all this time, you're still bound and determined to blame anyone and everyone but yourself. Pathetic.
Oh, I think I've had about all of this conversation that I can take. Nothing I can say to you will convince you that you're in the wrong, so I'm done. Don't take this to mean that I'm letting you get away with this, though.
I don't recall asking for your forgiveness. More importantly, I haven't done a single thing that would merit an apology.
You keep thinking that, Mom. I think you might come to regret this, though.
Me? You're the one who's going to regret being an impudent, disrespectful little upstart. You think you can throw my kindness in my face like this? From now on, both you and that little brat of yours are banned from any family gatherings. I don't ever want to see your faces around here again.
That's fine by me. After the way you've treated me and Annie, I don't ever want to see you again, either.
I bet you're really proud of yourself, Carrie.
Well, that's awful nice of you to say, Mom. I'm glad you finally come to recognize my accomplishments. Thanks.
Don't play dumb with me. You know fully well what I'm talking about. I don't know how you managed to pull off this stunt of yours, but congratulations. You've managed to turn my own husband against me.
I'm not sure what you mean, Mom. What makes you think I did anything of that sort?
There's no other possible explanation for how furious he is at me right now. Do you know what he just did to me? He kicked me out of our house.
Wow, he actually pulled through for me. I knew I could count on him. You sure married a real stand-up guy, Mom.
I knew it. You are the one responsible for all of this. What sort of vile, disgusting lies did you tell my husband about me? He's always so calm and soft-spoken. I don't think I've ever seen him frown up until just now.
I didn't tell him any lies. All I did was tell him exactly what you said and did to my daughter. Unlike you, your husband loves all of his grandchildren equally, without favor. The simple, plain truth was more than enough for him to be angry with you.
He's not just angry, though. He's completely lost his mind. He threw me out of the house. Didn't you see me say that? Take a look at the thermometer, Carrie. It's barely above freezing right now. At this rate, I'm going to be a human popsicle by sundown.
If your husband is as upset as I think he is, I doubt he's going to let you come back inside any time soon. So if I were you, I would focus on finding another place to warm up pretty quickly.
And just where am I supposed to go, Carrie? He just up and pushed me out the front door. He didn't even give me any time to grab my wallet. All I've got with me is my phone.
Aw, you poor, poor little thing. Facing the consequences of your own actions really sucks, doesn't it? Maybe you should have thought about what your husband might do to you before you went and called my daughter ugly and stupid. Frankly, I think you should be glad that the only thing he's done to you is kick you out. For now, anyway.
Shut up, you awful woman. I'll bet you think you've beaten me, don't you? You think you've won. But you're wrong. I've faced far worse than this, and you haven't heard the last of me.
Is that so? I'm shaking in my boots. Oh, wait, I'm wearing comfy slippers and sitting in the nice warm living room of my house. You're the one who's shaking in your boots. So tell me, Mom, what's your plan from here? You've got no money and about 30 minutes left until hypothermia sets in.
Ha! You don't think I have a plan B? I'm heading over to my daughter's house. All I need to do is give them a call and they'll speed right over here to pick me up. Even if they're busy, it's hardly even a 10-minute walk from our house to theirs. You might have turned my husband against me, but nothing will turn my daughter against me.
You seem pretty confident about that. Well, for your sake, I hope you're correct. But we'll find out very soon just how loyal your precious daughter is to you.
This doesn't make any sense. No one is willing to let me in. Not my daughter, not my siblings, not any of my relatives. You must be responsible for this. Did you go blabbing to my entire family about what happened?
Nope, I didn't say a thing to anyone but your husband. If anyone got the word out to your family, it must have been him.
This can't be happening. The warmest reception I got from any of them was simply having the door slammed in my face. But my brother and his wife took turns shouting at me, and my cousin chased me out his front yard while throwing snowballs at me. I'm so confused.
What's there to be confused about? It's simple. They're all disgusted at the way you behaved towards Annie yesterday. What made you think anyone would ever take your side against her to begin with? You're getting exactly the welcome you should expect to get.
I haven't done anything worth leaving me out in the cold like this. After all I've done for those ungrateful fools over the years, this is how they repay me? I spent a king's ransom on presents for my daughter's children this year, and the very next day she tells me that she's disowning me?
Whose money did you spend to buy those presents, Mom? Did you make that money? No, you haven't held a job a single day since you got married. That was all your husband's money. I'm honestly surprised he has any money left at all, considering what a spendthrift you are. Did you expect to get away with verbally abusing a young girl just because you spent someone else's money on a few Christmas presents? Get real.
I am not a spendthrift.
Oh? Then explain to me why every time I see you, you're using a different Gucci handbag. And on top of that, all the shoes in your closet are Jimmy Choo. Your husband told me personally that he was sick and tired of the way you were wasting the money that he had worked so hard to earn. He wanted to leave that money to your grandkids, not so you could impress all the ladies at the bridge club.
He's got no right to criticize me for the way I spend our money.
You mean his money?
I mean ours. Sure, maybe I didn't actually earn any of it myself, but I gave him children, didn't I? I raised those children by myself, didn't I? After all the cooking and cleaning I did for him, I'd say I deserve a nice pair of shoes every now and then.
What cooking and cleaning? Both my husband and your daughter have told me that you pushed practically all the cooking and cleaning onto them from the time they were able to walk. So it's odd that you would criticize me for the way I raised Annie when both of your children have nothing but bad things to say about the way you raised them.
You're lying. There's no way either of my children would speak that way about me.
They weren't very fond of you as things stood, even before you started bullying my daughter. You even made your husband start to regret his decision to stay married to you.
He regrets staying with me? What's that supposed to mean?
It means just what it sounds like. The only reason he stayed with you is for your children, and now you've made him regret that decision.
No. My husband loves
You mean
me.
the husband that just booted you out of the house in the middle of winter? If your husband went from calm and soft-spoken to that, I'd say it's a high probability that he isn't going to forgive you this time around.
What are you saying, Carrie?
Why are you asking me? Think about it yourself.
Carrie, listen. I'd like to apologize for the way I behaved.
I'm not the one you should be apologizing to.
Yes. Right. Well, is it all right if I go to your house right now? I'll give Annie a proper apology in person.
And how are you going to get here without any money?
Would you come pick me up?
Not a chance.
Why not? I'm genuinely sorry for what I did.
I'm not so sure how genuine you are, to be honest. I doubt you have a single genuine bone in your body. Maybe you need to spend a bit more time in the cold, thinking about what you've done.
I can't handle much more of this. I can barely feel my fingers and toes anymore. Please, Carrie, have mercy on me. I'm your mother-in-law.
No woman as craven, cruel, and hateful as you is any mother-in-law of mine. A few hours later, around midnight, my father-in-law finally let her into the house again. Without even so much as handing her a blanket, he immediately told her that he was going to divorce her. Like I told her earlier, he'd been holding back his discontent with her for decades, and with this week's events, he finally had enough. He talked to my husband and his sister about the divorce to hear what they thought, and neither of them had any objections. So, within a few weeks, he made good on his threat and divorced her. With nowhere else to go, my now ex-mother-in-law moved back to her hometown and found an old acquaintance willing to rent a room for her for cheap. As for us, with her out of the house, we've actually started visiting my father-in-law a lot more lately. He really is one of the most respectable men I have ever met. I can see where my husband got his good qualities from now. It also makes me wonder why in the world he thought to marry that woman in the first place.